Hi guys, Rob Bryant here. And first of all, let me just say thanks to everyone who has subscribed to this YouTube channel. It means the world to me. Secondly, I would like to say happy harvest time. In about a couple of days, there's going to be a huge event surrounding Halloween. This year, we're not celebrating Halloween, we are celebrating harvest time. So, with that said, it brings us to the image that you see before you. This video is going to briefly outline what went into creating this image, starting with Autodesk Maya with the 3D portion, and then coming into Adobe Photoshop to do the post-processing. So, with that said, if you haven't liked us on Facebook, go to www.facebook.com/Drew's Adventure. That's it. Drew's does not have an apostrophe, it's just Drew's Adventure, straight out. Alright, that's it. Let's get right to it. Here we are in Autodesk Maya. The image that you see looks similar, but not quite as quote-unquote polished. That's because this is the image that has been rendered directly out of Maya. I chose to render this image at 4K because I personally think that you get more detail. You're able to resolve much more detail by rendering at a higher resolution and then resizing to a smaller resolution. The render time does increase, but I feel the quality of your work at the end of the day is the most important aspect. So that's what led me to render this at 4K. 1:1 looks like this. So this is the amount of detail that you are able to capture by rendering at a higher resolution. I also want to note that I did use mainly 2K textures for most of the fruits and the baskets. So that's just kind of a sidebar. So how did we start with this? Alright, so we're going to go into the Maya viewport, and this is the 3D scene that we use to create the image. And as you can see, all of these elements are separate pieces of geometry. And if we go to look at this as a plain white diffuse material, they are simple models, nothing too intricate. So wireframes, for those who love wireframes, looks like this. Okay. Alright, so now let's get down into the nitty-gritty of this. So let's go back here, and we're going to work our way backwards. So I'm just going to hide all of the food elements, and then we'll start from scratch. So first, I decided to start with the basket after I placed the ground into place. The basket seems to be the staple. I mean, every image has to have some form of staple that grounds everything. I felt the weave basket was that, so I started with it first. Once I had that in place, I started to create the pumpkins, which is a huge part of harvest time and Halloween, if you will. So I decided to do those next, followed by apples. What's a harvest time without apples, right? Followed by grapes, followed by corn, and then pecans, radish, pears, a watermelon, or a few watermelon actually, cucumbers, peaches, a banana or bananas, carrots, onions, love these little guys, tomatoes, and an orange. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is actually the leaves. As you can see, they look a little weird. They have they're like boxes, but they're actual leaves here. So what's the deal? I decided to create this using a transparency map on a plane in which I deformed using lattices to give it the curled appearance, and they're all slightly different. But I felt it would lower my overhead with rendering time if I were to approach it this way. So that's how I chose to do it. And I rendered this. It took about 2.5 hours totally to render this scene. There's one light and then an HDR environment, and that's it. So there we are. And that is Maya. So now let's go back to Photoshop. And what I did here was, before I came to Photoshop, I rendered everything out in different passes. So my specular render pass was separate from my diffuse render pass, which was separate from my subsurface scattering pass, as well as the ambient occlusion and lighting and shadows and all of those things. I did that so that I could have more control in post-production to really massage this the way that I like, that I wanted it. I wanted to really art direct this. And the main reason I wanted to do that was I was matching our farmer Drew here. So it was important to me to really get it close, as close as I possibly could. So that's it. If you guys have any questions or want any further explanations, feel free to post a comment underneath the link below, and I'll try my best to answer as detailed and straightforward as I possibly can. Thanks for watching, and remember, impossible doesn't exist.